In the following clip you're about to watch, we take a midnight stroll through Tokyo's Aoyama Cemetery, a location legendary for its haunting history and ghost sightings. Most people are completely terrified to even step foot on these grounds after dark, but one brave explorer decided to walk through the shadows to see what the fuss was all about. While navigating the dark pathways, he suddenly hears a distinct cat meowing that startles him in the quiet night. His reaction was quick as he pans the camera towards the cemetery. However, when he watched the footage back, his camera picked up absolutely no trace of the feline's voice. But the missing audio isn't the most disturbing part of the walk. If you look carefully, when the camera turns into the cemetery area, a dark, shadow-like entity can be seen lingering amidst the tombstones. He was completely oblivious to its presence in the moment, not until people in the comments pointed his attention to it. So what exactly was stalking him from the dark, and why did it mask itself? In paranormal research, entities often use auditory trickery, known as phantom sounds, to disorient or distract a person. This could be an earthbound spirit, perhaps a residual energy of someone buried there, projecting the familiar sound of a meowing cat to lower his guard. By mimicking a harmless domestic animal, the spirit may have been trying to siphon his kinetic energy or lure him off the path while its shadow form observed him from the safety of the graves. Was this just a lonely soul using a familiar sound to draw a living connection? Or was a predatory entity trying to lure him deeper into the dark? In this next clip, an explorer decides to investigate a reported ghost sighting in the dense woods near his home. Equipped with a borrowed color night shot camera, he ventures out alone after dark to see if there is any truth to the local rumors. The initial atmosphere is completely still, but as he scans the tree line, he catches sight of a strange, pale anomaly shifting between the trees. He tries his best to steady his hands and zoom in for a better look, but whatever the entity is, it dissolves back into the shadows just as quickly as it appeared.
Where's it gone? There was something there. Sure, I saw something. Where is it? It was around here somewhere. It was here somewhere, but it's gone. I don't know where it is.
But the story didn't end in the forest. On a separate night, the creator experienced a deeply unsettling scenario. The realization that whatever presence you disturb in the wild might just follow you back to your personal space. While checking on a sudden disturbance in his own backyard, his camera picks up another pale, ambiguous figure moving stealthily behind the bushes. In paranormal research, a sequence like this is heavily associated with a concept known as spiritual attachment. The theory suggests that entities aren't always anchored to a single geographic location. Instead, when an individual enters their domain with a high level of hyperfocus, anticipation, and adrenaline, that intense emotional output can act like a beacon. The entity is thought to absorb this energy, using it as fuel to latch onto the investigator and follow them straight back to their home property. However, this footage has sparked an intense debate, and the skeptics make some incredibly strong arguments against it. Those who believe the video is fake point out that the heavy camera, shaking, sudden blurs, and rapid panning are classic techniques used to mask video edits or hide a practical effect, like a person in light clothing. Furthermore, early night shot cameras were notorious for heavy compression, meaning a stray reflection or a common nocturnal animal could easily be distorted into a ghostly shape. On the flip side, there are reasons to believe it could be genuine. Defenders of the clip point out the organic way the figure blends behind the complex, overlapping layers of branches, a feat that would have been remarkably difficult to cleanly render with consumer-grade digital editing software back when this was originally filmed. They also argue that the ambient audio and the raw tension in his breathing sound entirely unscripted. This leaves us with a classic supernatural dilemma. Was this just a clever piece of doctored footage meant to create an internet hoax? Or did this man genuinely capture an entity that followed him home from the woods? I'll let you decide. In this next clip, an Uber Eats driver named Marcus captures a bizarre chain of events while making a late-night delivery right next to a cemetery. While on his route, he begins hearing a heavy tapping and vibrating sound against his passenger window. With no one visible outside, he pulls over to check the exterior of his vehicle and see if something is caught underneath. While investigating outside, Marcus points his camera toward a discarded shoe sitting on a piece of cardboard by the curb, which suddenly shifts on its own. He quickly gets back into the driver's seat, but the situation escalates further when the passenger door unlatches and swings wide open completely by itself. What makes this sequence even more unusual is what Marcus discovered only after reviewing his dashcam footage later on. The interior camera shows a faint, translucent anomaly hopping directly through the closed passenger window just before the window began vibrating.
Doing my usual Uber eating, dropping off some food. I swear this, I have all address gotta be set by the cemetery, but I see this again, I'm just not gonna accept it. I'll tell you that. I'm not tripping. No. Make sure I'm not tripping. So, I'm driving off the DoorDash. The Uber eating. I can't even get my daggone company straight. And you're gonna see a vibration. But see tapping at the window. You're definitely gonna hear it. What the fuck? What the fuck was... Oh, hell no. Hell no. What the? Why? What the? No, you don't. Oh hell, what the fuck was shit? Shit, me. Shit. Oh hell, no. Hell. I'm out. Nope. No. No. No.
In paranormal research, proximity to a cemetery significantly increases the likelihood of encountering active spiritual energy. Graveyards are massive repositories of residual human history, and entities lingering in these spaces are frequently drawn to the bright headlights and kinetic energy of passing vehicles. The anomaly caught on the interior camera points toward a deliberate manifestation attempt. Because spirits lack a physical form, they must manipulate nearby objects, like the roadside shoe, or generate intense kinetic force to make their presence known, which directly explains the sudden, heavy vibrations on the window glass. Furthermore, unlatching and opening the heavy car door suggests the entity was executing a clear progression of activity, moving from outside disturbances to a physical invasion of Marcus's personal space. By utilizing the ambient energy of the environment, the presence managed to cross structural boundaries that would normally keep the physical world separate from the spiritual. So, do you think Marcus unwittingly invited a restless soul into his passenger seat? Or was this cemetery entity actively looking for a way to escape the confines of the graveyard? In this next clip, we look at a video captured by parents during a normal family gathering. At the start, a toddler is sitting calmly until his attention is drastically pulled toward the center of the room. His eyes clearly track an invisible path left and right, and he begins pointing towards something, following a trajectory that his parents completely miss. He then begins imitating the unseen presence, gesturing as if interacting with something right in front of him.
Non! Il est drôle avec son petit nom, hein? Il est vraiment dans Terrible 2, là, tu sais.
Ah.
Qu'est-ce que tu checkes là? C'est des fantômes, mon amour!
C'est pas une mouche, quoi.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Hein? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Quoi? Hein? Quoi? Parle! 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 Non! C'est comme, c'est moi à piste, si, je vais parler mais que ça me tente. Je m'inquiète pas, tu vas parler en tabarouette. Ah maintenant, on va dire, Colin, te rappelles-tu quand tu parlais pas? Est-ce qu'on était bien, hein? Parce qu'il va me poser plein de questions tout le temps. Pourquoi papa ça? Pourquoi papa ça? Pourquoi maman ça? Pourquoi maman ça? On va bénir le temps où il faisait juste encore des sons.
Alex, il est tard.
Si je vois pas le bas de la queue.
C'est bien même, on va voir juste l'armoire là.
Non, on le voyait super bien.
Il a caché là. Il vient de cacher qu'il est filmé là.
Là, tu peux te filmer là. Tu te filmes encore.
Il a oublié. Non. Oh ouais. Arrêtez pas de
tes
manger
dents.
l'assiette, elle est lourde.
Regarde
Oh.
tes dents.
Là, comment on va la stabiliser, la scène? C'est quoi que tu vas mettre là? Tu vas les mettre pour la figer là? Moi, il y a personne qui t'avait donné à manger, hein?
Young children are widely believed to possess a heightened sensitivity to spiritual phenomena. The underlying theory suggests that toddlers have not yet developed the psychological filters or rational skepticism that adults use to dismiss unusual sensory data, leaving their perception open to subtle environmental shifts and entities. In this instance, the child's reaction is not a gradual drift into daydreaming, but a sudden and deliberate engagement with a specific spot in the room. His physical tracking and imitation imply he is observing a clear visual stimulus. This could indicate an interaction with a residual energy signature or an intelligent spirit, perhaps a deceased relative, visiting the household. What do you think caught this toddler's eye? Was it just a sudden burst of a vivid imagination, or are young children genuinely capable of seeing things adults cannot? In this next clip, a family grieving a loss experiences a beautiful and bizarre moment of farewell. The on-screen text translates to, "If they hadn't recorded it, we wouldn't have believed it," as the family describes their belief that their deceased sister used a white, star-shaped foil balloon to navigate the house one last time to say goodbye and apologize to her brother. As you watch, the balloon moves down the hallway and enters the bedroom, where the brother is sitting quietly on the edge of the bed. Instead of drifting aimlessly toward the ceiling or being erratically pushed by a draft, the balloon appears to travel along a deliberate path, hovering directly in front of the young man. The most compelling detail occurs toward the end of the footage, when the brother suddenly flinches and stands up quickly from the bed, reacting as if someone had just physically touched him. Watch. Lightweight objects like balloons are frequently reported as mediums used by spirits to communicate, as they require very little kinetic energy to manipulate or guide. The family firmly interprets this event as a genuine spiritual farewell, dedicating the footage with the message, "Siempre vas a estar con nosotros, mi reina," which translates to, "You will always be with us, my queen." So what do you think? Was this an extraordinary coincidence involving indoor air currents, or did a grieving brother receive a tangible, physical sign from his sister? In the following clip you're about to watch, we see a terrifying example of a child interacting with something that an adult is completely blind to. A mother is just casually filming her little boy, Jensen, while he lines up his toy cars on the living room floor. It's a completely innocent, quiet moment, right up until a sudden noise echoes from the other side of the room. What makes this video so chilling isn't the sound itself, but Jensen's immediate, visceral reaction to it. According to his mum, he is not typically a cuddly or clingy kid, but the absolute second this happens, his survival instincts completely take over. Watch what happens when his mum starts asking him very specific questions about exactly what he is looking at.
What? It's okay. Do you see someone?
Yes.
Who do you see?
Da.
Who is it?
Daddy.
You see someone over there? What are they doing? That's what they're doing?
Yes.
Are they scary? Are they nice? Like, do you want to go play with them? They're not there no more?
Yes.
They are? What are they doing? Is there still someone over there by your toys?
Yes.
Is it a man? Or is it a lady?
Sissy.
A lady? It's a woman? Do you know her name?
Ada.
What's her name?
Ada too.
Oh, she's in the kitchen now? Oh,
It's high.
she's up high?
Yes. Ada. Oh. Ada. Oh.
What?
This.
What is it?
Ada.
You tell me, I don't see anything.
Oh, Ada.
You keep pointing by your toys. Is there someone by your toys?
Oh, shit.
You keep pointing to the chair.
Oh.
Is there someone in the chair?
Yes.
Can you point to where you see someone? Where are they?
Ada.
They're right there. What are they doing?
Ada. I see. Ada.
The chair?
Ada. Ada. Ada.
Over by your toys?
Yes.
Well, are they gone now? Did they go bye-bye?
Ada.
Right there?
Yes, I see.
They're by the chair.
Yes.
Can you wave to them if you see them?
Oh, Ada. Ada, Golly. Mommy.
Yeah?
Ada. I see.
You see them?
I see.
Is it boy or girl?
Two.
A girl?
Ada. Go.
You see the girl?
Oh. Ada.
Can you ask her her name?
A go.
A girl. You see a girl? Does she make you happy or scared? Scared?
I see. Ada.
Yeah, you keep pointing to the chair.
A go.
A girl? Is she old? Like, is she maybe mommy's grandma?
Ada. I go.
A girl?
I go. Ada.
A girl sitting over there.
I go. Ada.
You see that? You see a girl?
I go to Ada. Go see.
Oh.
Shit.
Did she wave to you?
No, I see that.
Is she nice?
Let's
Oh, she is nice. Where is she?
bye.
I know you're waving to the chair, but where is she behind? Like, can you look at her? Is she there? I don't see her, do you?
Pop.
Oh. Did she leave?
No.
No, she's still there.
Let's.
Where? I put you down and you go show me where she is. Go show me. Go by her.
Ada.
Can you go give her a high five?
Nope.
Why?
High five.
You don't want to?
There is nothing more unsettling than a toddler casually describing a nightmare standing right in front of them. When she asks what the presence is doing, the terrifying face and sound he mimics to demonstrate is pure nightmare fuel. But the absolute scariest part of this footage is how he physically tracks the entity's movements in real time. He doesn't just stare at one dark corner. He points to the end of the living room, then tracks it moving into the kitchen, and finally points straight up to the ceiling. In paranormal research, an entity that defies gravity to crawl or hover on a ceiling is almost never classified as a standard human spirit. That kind of unnatural, spider-like movement is a classic hallmark of something much darker, often associated with demonic entities or crawlers. The fact that this entity is intentionally keeping itself hidden from the adults while actively showing itself to the toddler is a textbook isolation tactic. It knows the child's sensory filters are still wide open, and it is deliberately using that connection to feed off his pure, unfiltered panic. After little Jensen's terrifying encounter with whatever was crawling on the ceiling, the family understandably set up a security camera to see what was actually happening in their living room. And a few days later, the camera caught another incident. The older brother, Tucker, is just getting ready to head out with his mum, but as he's standing there, the environment is clearly highly active. Keep your focus on the little toy duck sitting completely by itself in the middle of the floor, and keep an eye out for the strange, illuminated anomalies floating through the air. Watch Tucker's body language closely too. It looks like he might actually catch a glimpse of the movement out of the corner of his eye before they walk out the door. When you combine floating orbs with actual physical object manipulation, it completely changes the conversation. Skeptics love to quickly debunk orbs as just dust particles or bugs catching the infrared light of a security camera. But in paranormal research, when an orb is captured in the exact same frame as a heavy physical interaction, like a toy being dragged across the floor, investigators classify those spheres as concentrated balls of raw spiritual energy actively trying to manifest. The creepiest part of this footage is the timeline of the movement. The entity moves the duck slightly while Tucker is standing right there, almost like it's testing the waters to see if he notices. But the absolute second the front door closes and the house is completely empty, the toy is forcefully dragged even further to the right. It proves that whatever has attached itself to this family isn't just putting on a spooky show for an audience. It is physically occupying their space, and it has absolutely no problem playing with the kids' toys the moment they leave the room. In this next clip, we look at the absolute worst case scenario for anyone who lives by themselves. The guy filming this is just returning home after stepping out for the night. As he walks up to his house, he casually glances up at his second-story window, but instead of the dark, empty room he was expecting, he sees something that stops him completely in his tracks. Someone, or something, is already inside, looking right back down at him. Keep in mind, his caption explicitly states that he lives completely alone.
No mamen. Acabo de llegar del trabajo y vean lo que estoy viendo en la ventana. No mamen.
Seeing a pale, almost translucent face staring out from a pitch-black room is pure nightmare fuel. In the paranormal community, entities that present themselves exactly like this are often referred to as watchers. Unlike poltergeists that aggressively throw things around to cause chaos and fear, watchers are incredibly still, quiet, and deeply territorial. They usually claim a specific room or floor of a house and simply observe the living. However, the fact that it is intentionally hovering right at the glass while he is standing outside shows a terrifying level of awareness. It isn't just mindlessly haunting a corner of the room, it is actively looking out the window, watching him return. It is a bold, territorial display, basically daring him to come inside, unlock his front door, and try to go to sleep. You see, just because you pay the rent doesn't mean you actually live alone. So, what do you think that is? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, we tap into one of the most primal fears you can experience. You're home completely alone, locked in your bedroom, when someone starts knocking and calling your name in your mother's exact voice. The only problem, the first time this happened, she was actually on the phone with her real mum at that exact moment, who confirms she isn't anywhere near the house. When dealing with a mimic, the golden rule is to never respond and never open the door. But watch what happens when she refuses to answer and the entity decides it's completely tired of waiting in the hallway.
Hey guys, I'm home alone and I'm getting ready for bed. Mom? Are you home?
Adrena, are you there?
Wait, I thought you weren't going to be home for another 30 minutes. What?
Adrena.
Her scream, as that door slowly swings open to reveal an empty hallway, is absolutely bone-chilling. But that final moment actually sparked a massive debate in the comments. Are mimics physically capable of opening doors on their own? In traditional paranormal lore, the answer is almost always no. Mimics are considered psychological predators. They copy the voices of your loved ones, specifically to bait you into opening the door, because they lack the kinetic energy or the spiritual permission to cross a closed boundary on their own. They rely entirely on trickery to get an invitation. So, what does it mean if the door opens by itself? From a paranormal theory standpoint, it suggests two incredibly terrifying possibilities. Either this entity has been feeding off her raw panic long enough to gather the physical power of a poltergeist, or it was never just a mimic to begin with. What do you think it was? In this next clip, a man was walking through the Valley Plaza Mall late at night, long after the stores had closed and the crowds had gone home. It should be dead silent, but as he's walking past the dark storefronts and empty massage chairs, he hears something that immediately makes his blood run cold. The distinct, echoing sound of children laughing. So, he immediately pulls out his phone to document it and manages to capture the giggling on camera. But as he's trying to figure out where the sound is coming from, he notices something moving in the shadows down the hall. Keep your eyes on the dark kiosk counter in the distance and listen closely.
On everything I love, I just heard a group of kids over here laughing. On everything, bro. I just heard a group of kids laughing. Where the hell the kids at? What the fuck? Bro, I know I'm not tripping, bro. I just heard a whole bunch of kids laughing, bro. You hear that shit? What the fuck? Bro, I'm in the mall by myself. Where the fuck is that shit coming from? I know y'all heard that shit. Bro, what the fuck? I'm about to get about this bitch. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Staring right at me. Right there. My heart beating fast as fuck, bro. I'm scared as fuck. There's a person right there in a red shirt right in front of me. Right there, y'all see him. There's a person right there. Bro, what the fuck going on? He just standing there. Bro, he just standing there, bro. Bro. I'm out of here.
Hearing a child's laugh in an abandoned or empty space is basically the ultimate horror movie cliche, but in the paranormal community, it is actually taken very seriously. There are generally two schools of thought when it comes to phantom children. The first is that it's residual energy. Moles are places of high emotion, excitement, and energy, especially for kids. That intense joy can basically get recorded into the environment, playing back like a broken tape when the building is quiet. However, the second theory is much darker. Many investigators believe that malevolent entities will actively mimic the voices of crying or laughing children. It's a predatory tactic designed to instantly lower your guard and trigger your natural instinct to go investigate and help. When you combine that phantom laughing with a physical shadow ducking behind a counter in the distance, it looks a lot less like a residual echo and a lot more like an intelligent entity playing a very dark game of hide and seek, actively trying to bait him further into the dark mole. This next video was recorded by a father and daughter duo who were touring the historic streets of Galveston, Texas. Galveston is widely considered one of the most haunted cities in the United States, largely due to its tragic history with the Great Storm of 1900. For these two, ghost hunting is a shared passion, but they actually managed to capture their most compelling evidence without even realizing it. While they were filming the exterior of one of the city's famous Victorian-style houses, they missed the figure standing in the second-story window. It wasn't until they got home and re-watched the footage that they saw the pale shape looking back at them before it seemingly retreats into the darkness of the room.
Alright, so we took this video a while back. It's probably about 4 years ago, when I took my daughter to Galveston. We were doing those ghost tours. And later we come back and my daughter says, "Dad, look, I think I got something on one of her live photos that she did." And we've always wondered if that was something, but y'all let me know what y'all think. We think it's somebody there, like a ghost, and then it disappears. Like he's in the frame and then he disappears in the window. Now I'm gonna zoom in on it and play it. It was a live, so I have to zoom in and then do it because it's hard to see the whole video, but when we saw it there, that's what we call it. Y'all tell me what y'all think this is. So like you see there's a guy right there, like the picture of him, and then if you look, it's like he walks away, like it walks from, he's there and then he just walks away like through the thing. So y'all tell me what y'all think about that. I don't know. I know it's kind of hard to see on there, and I was trying to zoom in and zoom out and trying to get a closer look at it, but the first picture I put, it shows like it's still framing me up close, and it looks like a guy with like a hat with the white, looks like a figure in that window. I said I had to try to zoom in because it's a live video, so if you push it one way, you have to zoom on it just right so it follows it. But I don't know. What do y'all guys think? Do we get something? Do we not get something? Is it maybe something? Could it be a ghost? Could it not be a ghost? I wanted to research more on like that house because apparently there was a lot of stuff that went on in that house. If you've ever taken the tour in Galveston, one of them that goes by, we've taken a couple times just because me and my daughters, we love to go ghost hunting. But we've taken it a couple times. They showed us other pictures and stuff around there. Some other pictures other people have taken. But yeah, just let me know what y'all think. I talked to one of the tour guides that gave us the tour last time. I showed her that and she was like, yeah, I think that's something. So I don't know if she's saying that or what, but y'all tell me what y'all think.
Galveston's haunted reputation comes from a massive amount of residual energy left behind by its turbulent past. These old houses are like sponges for spiritual activity, and sightings of figures in white are incredibly common in this area. Often, these are believed to be the spirits of former residents who are still tethered to their family homes, repeating their daily routines in a loop. However, the way this figure moves is what has paranormal investigators talking. A residual haunting usually doesn't react to the living. It just plays like a movie on a loop. But this figure appears to notice the camera and immediately moves away, which suggests an intelligent entity. It knew it was being watched and chose to disappear back into the shadows of the house. What do you think that was? Was that a spirit of old Galveston watching from the shadows? Or is it just a trick of the light? I'll leave you to be the judge. The clip you're about to watch captures a homeowner's descent into a living nightmare. What began as a peaceful evening at home quickly dissolved as he realized he wasn't nearly as alone as he thought. You can feel the tension the moment the video starts. He's standing in his living room, recording, because he started hearing these heavy, deliberate knocks echoing from his front door. Hoping it was just a late delivery or a confused neighbor, he grabs his camera and approaches the entryway to investigate. As he gets closer, the knocking actually gets faster and more insistent, almost as if whatever is out there knows he's approaching. He finally pulls the door open, fully expecting to confront someone on his porch, but he's met with absolutely nothing but the dead silence of the night. There is no one there, and nowhere for a prankster to hide that quickly.
So I thought Fawn and David were back. I just got out of the shower and I heard, well, it sounded like the door opening and closing, but oh my god, nobody's fucking here. And my cat is just staring at the fucking door. I know, messy room, I know. It's my sister's room. She creeps me out for some reason. See, look at her. Stare over there at the fucking door. Fuck. Jinxies, you're my witness. You heard whatever's at the door, right? God, if cats could fucking talk. That thing too. Why are these fucking open? Ooh, I got the fucking chills again, dude. I gotta get dressed. I'm out of here, dude. Fuck that. I don't like Fawn's closet. It creeps me out. Let's look at that here.
In his caption for this video, the homeowner points out a detail that he didn't even notice until he watched the footage back. Pay close attention to the blinds on the window next to the door. As he walks up to the door, the blinds are clearly pulled shut. But seconds later, when he turns back around after finding the empty porch, the blinds are wide open and he closes them again, completely unaware that they had been closed just moments prior. In paranormal theory, this combination of events is highly indicative of an intelligent haunting. The rapid knocking is often seen as threshold testing, an entity trying to goad the homeowner into opening the door and essentially inviting them in. But the physical manipulation of the blinds is the real red flag here. It shows that the entity isn't just outside trying to get in, it's already inside the house, capable of physical manipulation and actively trying to disorient him. He thought he was looking for a prowler on the porch, but the real threat was standing right behind him. That chilling realization is likely what pushed him to start documenting every inch of his property. Seeking a bit of normalcy, or perhaps just trying to escape the heavy atmosphere of the living room, he retreats to the garage. He set up another camera to keep a watchful eye, but as he sits in a chair with his back to the closed garage door, scrolling on his phone, he is completely unaware of the physical activity starting to unfold directly behind him.
This moving shit. I fucking got that. Still fucking moving. Oh, there ain't no wind. Like this.
In paranormal investigations, a garage is often considered a liminal space, a threshold between the chaotic outside world and the safety of the home. When an entity begins to manipulate heavy objects in a liminal space, it's often a sign that it is gaining strength and attempting to establish dominance over the entire property. The fact that the entity is comfortable moving these items while he is actively sitting in the room suggests that it's no longer just trying to disorient him, it's trying to assert control. He might have thought he was just dealing with a few drafty rooms, but the activity in the garage proves the entity is making itself right at home, and that newly claimed territory quickly begins to expand, shrinking his remaining safe spaces. Later that night, the homeowner is barricaded in his bedroom, but the entity is no longer content with just moving boxes in the distance. He starts filming his closed bedroom door because there is a distinct rhythmic scratching and thumping coming from the hallway right outside. It sounds deliberate, almost like something is pacing and testing the barrier between them. He finally works up the nerve to open it, bracing himself to find an intruder, or maybe hoping to just find one of his pets, but the hallway is completely dead.
Dude. Don't fucking scare me, dog. Fuck. The fuck, man? Fuck off, dog. Did you fucking see that, dude? Why every time I'm fucking alone, dude? Fuck.
He sweeps the entire house, clearing the bathroom, navigating the living room, and stepping into the other rooms, but he finds absolutely nothing. His cat is completely unbothered on the bed, and his dog is just chilling in the living room, proving this wasn't an animal making that noise. In paranormal research, the bedroom is considered the ultimate sanctuary. When a haunting moves from the periphery to actively scratching at the bedroom door, it's a tactic called predatory isolation. The entity is trying to make him feel unsafe in the one place he needs to rest, feeding off the exhaustion and paranoia that comes from realizing a locked door won't stop the intrusion. He's essentially trapped in a psychological siege, and whatever is in that house wants him to know there is nowhere left to hide. The situation reaches a breaking point in the final piece of footage. The homeowner is fully on edge, exhausted, and desperately trying to pinpoint the source of the escalating activity. He hears a disturbance and steps outside into the darkness of his front driveway to investigate. After finding nothing, he quickly retreats back inside, visibly terrified, only to realize the entity used that as a distraction. The camera pans across his bedroom to a full-length mirror hanging on his door, and across the entire width of the glass is a massive, jagged crack. He points his camera at the damage and explicitly states, "It was not like that, dude."
Some noise coming from in there. Oh, hell fucking no. Fuck. Dude. What's that noise? Oh, I'm blind. Ah, crap. Fucking garage door's locked. I don't want to go in there. Shit. Look at my fucking mirror. It was not fucking like that, dude.
Now, here's where we have to ask the big question. What exactly is this entity? In paranormal theory, when a haunting involves both intense physical manifestation, like moving heavy boxes and breaking mirrors, and psychological manipulation, like knocking and opening blinds, we are likely looking at a poltergeist or a highly volatile elemental entity. Unlike traditional human spirits, which are often residual and passive, poltergeists are fueled by raw, chaotic energy. They don't just haunt a space. They feed off the fear and anxiety of the people living there, escalating their physical attacks to generate even more of the terrified energy they need to manifest. But if you thought the broken mirror was the climax of this haunting, the final piece of footage proves the entity is no longer restricted to the shadows or the dead of night. The homeowner has set up a static camera in his well-lit dining room. He's just going about his day, doing the dishes in the kitchen while music plays in the background. But as he steps out of the frame, for just a moment, a heavy wooden chair at the dining table suddenly slides backward across the floor, scraping loudly as if an invisible guest is pulling it out to take a seat. He immediately steps back into the room, staring at the chair in disbelief, and asks the only question left. Did this fucking chair just move? In paranormal investigations, daytime or well-lit activity is extremely rare and signifies an entity that has amassed a dangerous amount of energy. It no longer needs the cover of darkness to manifest. The act of pulling out a chair is intimately domestic. It's an intelligent, almost mocking gesture. The entity is telling him that it lives there too. It sits at his table, and it is entirely unafraid of him. At this point, the house doesn't belong to him anymore. So what do you think? Is this an aggressive poltergeist asserting dominance over the property? Or is there a much darker, demonic attachment at play? This next clip comes from a creator named Corey who learned the hard way that being home alone doesn't always mean the house is empty. It starts when his partner takes the dog out for a walk, leaving him completely by himself. That's when he begins hearing inexplicable noises echoing up from the basement, a bizarre repeated thud, followed by laughter and a blood-curdling, shrieking scream. Determined to prove he isn't losing his mind, he decides to run a simple experiment, marking the basement doors with pillows to see if anything physical is moving down there. The next day, the video he records confirms the impossible. The pillow has been pushed completely aside. He immediately sets up 2 security cameras to monitor the house, but the entity doesn't seem to care. His dog begins acting incredibly strange, pacing the hallway, whimpering, and just staring endlessly into an empty room. But the real terror happens when one of the cameras suddenly glitches and goes completely blank.
My partner stepped out with the dog for one last walk at that night, and I was the only one left in the house at this point. I grabbed my phone as quick as I could and actually captured the noises. There was a couple different noises that were heard. It played that noise twice, and then laughter style, which you'll hear later, and then it also played like a very loud shrieking noise of a girl screaming. So I don't know, it came from the basement. It was just mind-numbingly loud. So I did what any composed man would do. I grabbed a knife and gave it a good 5 minutes and went down and looked around. So at this point I noticed everything was normal, and there's a couple rooms down there I didn't really care to look in, so I just marked the doors with pillows so I could go back and see if anything had moved the next day from my video I was taking. And at this point in time we determined just to get out of the house, take the dog with us, and
come on, Jesse, up.
Get out
Come
of
on.
there because there's just too many unexplained things.
Come on, up. Let's go. Come on, up.
She had to come back the next day first thing, so I said, as soon as you get there, check for the ball at the door and then take pictures of the pillows downstairs. And this is what she sent me. Well, this is the original. This is what she sent me. Normal. Video. Next day. So at this point I realized, okay, someone's in the house. Get the hell out of there. And I went over there and put 2 cameras in there, one in the bonus room and one on the main floor, which captured everything. It was the weirdest thing. The dog just went up and down all day and just stared into a room and just whimpering back and forth. We're not gonna pretend like the decor up there is normal by any means. And then the camera did the weirdest thing. It just went blank. So she went back to check that night, and finally we captured the laughter on the cameras. Her motion had set it off and saved the clips, and to this very day we cannot explain what happened that day. Everything's been disconnected electronically in the house.
Now, here's where it gets deeply unsettling. While the screen is black, the camera's audio picks up a bizarre, wailing groan, immediately followed by a distinctly childlike voice calling out Mom. If you dive into the comments on his original post, sharp-eared viewers even point out a terrifying, hidden whisper earlier in the footage, directly asking, "Do you see me?" In paranormal theory, this specific type of vocal manipulation is the signature of a mimic. A mimic is an entity that replicates familiar, harmless, or vulnerable sounds, like a woman screaming or a child calling for its mother, specifically to lure its victims into isolated areas like a basement. The fact that his dog was terrified and the cameras malfunctioned right before the voice was captured suggests a massive spike in electromagnetic energy. The entity wasn't just trying to make some noise, it was actively trying to bait him back downstairs into the dark. In the following clip you're about to watch, we get a chilling look at why healthcare workers often joke about avoiding certain shifts. This footage was captured by Camila Torres, a nurse working at a nursing home, back in 2019 when a resident asked her to record a cleansing of what the staff called the death room. This specific room was notorious. Patients placed there would have sudden medical episodes or pass away, and the heavy cold energy was so intense that the facility eventually stopped placing patients inside it altogether. As the resident performs her prayer and wafts her hands outside the doorway, pay close attention to the rosary hanging on her hand.
Heavenly Father, I ask for your divine presence to fill this space. May your light shine brightly through every room, cleansing this home of any negativity, fear, or unrest. Let peace dwell in every corner, and love be the foundation of every wall. Bless this home with your protection, surrounding it with your angels, and shielding it from harm and evil. May every door be a passage to your grace, and every window open to your blessings. In Jesus' name.
Skeptics might write this off as a simple draft from a nearby vent, but a heavy beaded rosary doesn't just flutter like a piece of paper, it physically jumps as if tugged by an invisible hand. In paranormal theory, religious artifacts are often focal points for spiritual energy, and an entity occupying a space associated with so much trauma would naturally react aggressively to a cleansing. When a room accumulates so much transition and grief, it can easily become a magnet for something far more active that doesn't want to be evicted. But what do you think happened here? I'll leave you to be the judge. This next clip captures what should have been a warm, wholesome family gathering. A father is sitting on the couch playing the guitar while his family happily sings along. It's a beautiful, intimate moment, but if you look carefully at the open window just behind his shoulder, you'll catch a detail that completely ruins the cozy vibe. In the upper portion of the dark window frame, a pale, face-like shape appears to peek into the room, silently observing the performance before vanishing back into the pitch-black night.
Cuando me miraba esos tus ojos, cuando me miraba esos tus ojos, yo pues pensaba que me querías, yo pues pensaba que me amabas. Viene desde Perú acá, Chile, ¿no? Este es un playa nada más. Esos dos ojos tienen la culpa, esos dos ojos tienen la culpa de haberme mirado sin conocernos bien, de haberme mirado sin conocernos bien. Cuando me besaban esos tus labios, cuando me besaron esos tus labios, yo pues pensaba que tú me amabas, yo pues pensaba.
The chilling footage has left many convinced of its supernatural origin, with the creator herself agreeing, stating, "Si es un fantasma," which translates to, yes, it is a ghost. So, what exactly are we looking at, and why is it lurking there? In paranormal theory, spirits are often drawn to high vibration, positive human energy like music, laughter, and family bonding. Rather than a malicious presence, this could be an earthbound spirit, perhaps a deceased relative or a former occupant of the home, attracted to the warmth of the song. It appears to be acting as a silent spectator, temporarily drawing enough kinetic energy from the group's collective joy to make its fleeting, pale form visible in the darkness, simply wanting to feel a connection to the living world once again. So, what do you think? Was this a loving ancestor pausing to enjoy a family melody, or is something more sinister watching from the shadows of the backyard? In this next clip, we follow the story of a mother named Sam, who for a long time had a persistent, unsettling feeling that she was being watched in her own home. She could never quite put her finger on what was causing the dread, until she accidentally recorded her twin boys playing and watched the footage back. While filming her toddlers running into a bedroom, a distinct, disembodied woman's voice can be heard over the audio, whispering a chilling, "Shh, quiet."
¿Qué pasó? ¿Quién está en el cuarto?
Sam confirmed she was completely alone in the house with only her young children at the time, leaving no logical explanation for who could have whispered the warning. In paranormal research, this is a classic example of an electronic voice phenomenon, or EVP. Entities often draw upon the high vibration, chaotic kinetic energy of playing children to manipulate the airwaves and make themselves heard. But why tell the boys to be quiet? Some investigators suggest that domestic spirits can become highly territorial, occasionally falling back into old disciplinary habits, as if they still run the household. Others fear a more deceptive entity, trying to hush the kids to avoid being fully discovered by the mother. Was this the voice of a lingering, spectral guardian watching over the boys? Or is there a silent tenant in this home trying to keep its presence a secret? I'll let you be the judge. In this next clip, we witness what happens when a haunting refuses to remain isolated to just one member of a household. This footage was uploaded by a terrified husband, but the camera is actually being held by his wife. Just a few days prior, he had a terrifying run-in with what he calls a knocking ghost while he was home alone. And then 3 later, the exact same phenomenon returned, proving that whatever is inhabiting their property has no intention of leaving. The activity actually began before she even had a chance to grab her phone, which is why the family dogs are already shown incredibly on edge, growling and pacing anxiously near the door. Realizing that the entity had returned, she quickly started recording to capture undeniable proof.
Okay. It just happened again and the dogs are freaked out. Get it. Daisy, come over here. Get it. You be right there. Something opens that fucking door, you need to get him. Oh my god, I don't know if it's gonna happen again. It just fucking happened again. Move, 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 move! There's fucking nobody there! The dog stopped fucking barking now. Davey's freaking the fuck out by the door though. What is it? There's nobody out there. I'm not opening the fucking door anymore.
As you can hear, she barely has time to set the scene before a series of violent, heavy knocks rattle the door leading outside, sending the dogs into a barking frenzy. The sheer force of the bangs suggests a physical presence right on the other side of the glass, yet the porch is completely empty. Whatever was demanding to be let in was entirely unseen, but its ability to physically rattle the frame of the house is undeniable. It didn't end there. On a separate day, the husband captured another occurrence, proving that the disturbance wasn't just a fleeting one-time anomaly. The knocking has become a relentless daily ordeal for the couple, slowly wearing down their peace of mind in their own home. It seems to happen at any hour, completely unprovoked, turning their sanctuary into a psychological pressure cooker.
Here. Happens all the time.
As the heavy rhythmic knocks rattle the door once again, the husband immediately steps up to investigate, determined to find a logical explanation. He walks straight to the glass pane, slides the lock, and throws the door open to catch the culprit in the act. But just like before, the back porch is completely empty. There are no neighborhood pranksters sprinting away, and no physical explanation for the loud pounding that occurred just a second prior. The absolute dead stillness of the yard only makes the noise more unsettling, proving that whatever is demanding to be let in doesn't need a physical body to make its presence felt. It is a bold, broad daylight manifestation that shows this entity is actively testing its boundaries, mocking their attempts to secure the home. But the true source of this terror may lie just beyond the porch, hidden in the thick tree line bordering the property. Desperate for answers, the husband decided to film the pitch black woods behind their house, sensing that something was watching them from the dark. If you look carefully into the shadows near the fence line, you'll see a tall, dark, human-like figure silently lurking among the trees, shifting slightly in the darkness. This unsettling discovery ties all of the family's terrifying experiences together. What if the violent knocking on the door wasn't an isolated trick, but a deliberate attempt by this forest-dwelling entity to gain entry into their home? In paranormal lore, entities that inhabit the woods, often referred to as elementals or territorial nature spirits, can become highly aggressive when humans encroach on their space. This shadow figure might be attempting to establish dominance, using the rhythmic knocking as a form of psychological warfare to break down the couple's sense of security. By wearing down their defenses, it feeds on the resulting fear and anxiety, gaining the energy it needs to manifest even closer to the house. So, what do you think? Is this a malevolent entity trying to claim the home for itself? Or is it a silent sentinel of the woods, warning the family that they are no longer welcome? In this next clip, we travel to the dense, ancient forests of the Appalachian Mountains, a region as famous for its rich natural beauty as it is for its deeply unsettling folklore. The homeowner, a local herbalist who frequently harvests plants and works closely with the surrounding wilderness, began noticing a strange, heavy shift in the atmosphere of her property. Her suspicions were confirmed during the day when her outdoor security camera captured a bizarre, high-speed anomaly in her backyard. If you look carefully at the area right next to the parked camper trailer, a small, pale streak of light shoots across the screen at an impossible velocity. While skeptics might try to write this off as a simple insect flying close to the lens, the trajectory, sudden acceleration, and sheer speed completely rule out a bug or a bird. It behaves like a highly concentrated orb of kinetic energy, darting with deliberate purpose. In paranormal lore, these fast-moving light anomalies are often thought to be scouts, elemental energies, or spiritual manifestations testing the boundaries of human habitats. For an herbalist who regularly interacts with the natural energy of the land, it's highly possible that her work has unwittingly drawn the curiosity of something ancient living deep within the mountain hollows. Determined to find out what was sharing their land, the couple began closely monitoring their backyard security feeds at night. It didn't take long for their vigilance to pay off, but the answer they got was far more terrifying than they ever bargained for. While watching the live feed, they spotted a chilling shape slowly moving through the pitch black tree line. At first, her husband wonders if it's just a local coyote, but as the entity steps further into the illuminated clearing, the sheer horror of the situation sets in.
Okay, so alarms are going off and the rooster's going nuts. We caught some coyotes in the backyard. What is that?
It's probably that coyote.
Right there. What the heck?
Is that
No.
That's not a coyote. That's a fucking person.
Where's the dog? Well, you better go now.
What, man? What the fuck is that?
I don't know. The rooster's not too happy. Where's the dog? There's the dog. Why is she in her freaking pen? What the? Oh my god. Okay, so it came back. What the hell?
There's Lucy right there.
Yeah, but you see where it's standing?
Yeah, it's looking in the window at you.
It's at our window. What?
It's a good way to get shot in the face.
And the dog's just staring.
So why is the damn dog not barking?
Oh my god.
What is that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What? Alright, do.
Walking upright between the trees is an incredibly tall, pale, and spindly humanoid figure. The proportions are completely off for a normal human, exhibiting elongated limbs and a haunting, gaunt frame that moves with an eerie, calculated grace. The tension peaks when the couple realizes their dog is completely silent and missing from the frame, prompting a frantic realization that they are in immediate danger. What exactly is this creature, and why is it lurking in their yard? In Appalachian cryptid lore, sightings of these pale crawlers or forest-dwelling entities are shockingly common. These beings are believed to be ancient, reclusive dwellers of the deep woods and cave systems, highly sensitive to human presence. It's highly likely this entity was drawn to the property by the herbalist's active engagement with the surrounding forest, viewing her as an intruder in its territory, or perhaps as a source of curiosity. So, was this an ancient resident of the mountains, merely observing the homeowners, or is this pale figure hunting for a way inside? I'll leave you to be the judge. In the following clip you're about to watch, we see a terrifying encounter that turns a completely mundane, everyday space into a nightmare. The guy filming is just making his way through a quiet, empty utility room. It seems like a completely normal, boring walk until the dead silence is suddenly broken by something you never want to hear when you think you're alone. And whatever makes that sound follows it up immediately with a massive, aggressive display of physical force right in front of him. Watch how fast his survival instincts kick in when he realizes what is standing in the aisle with him.
I know.
Moving a heavy, front-loading appliance door on its hinges requires a significant amount of physical strength. It's not something a draft or a slightly uneven floor is going to accomplish. But where this happens is actually the most interesting piece of the puzzle. In paranormal lore, utility rooms, basements, and laundry areas are notorious hotbeds for spiritual activity. Paranormal investigators widely believe that water is a massive conductor for spiritual energy. Entities naturally gravitate toward places with heavy plumbing, drainage, and large electrical appliances. Those elements combined create a massive, easily accessible pool of kinetic and electromagnetic energy for them to draw from in order to physically manifest. Whatever is sharing that room with him isn't just a weak, residual spirit. It has siphoned enough ambient energy from its environment to not only project its voice, but to physically interact with the real world. It wanted to stop him right in his tracks and show him exactly who was in control of that room. What do you think was sharing that room with him? I'll leave you to be the judge. In the next clip, we see exactly why exploring sealed-off, abandoned buildings at night is always a terrible idea. The guy filming is standing outside a completely deserted house, and you can immediately tell he already knows he shouldn't be there. He unlocks the door to go inside, but before he even crosses the threshold, he starts loudly praying. Whether he heard something moving around inside from the porch, or the energy of the place was just that overwhelmingly heavy, his instincts were screaming at him that the house wasn't actually empty, and he barely takes a few steps inside before he gets violent, physical confirmation. Keep your eyes locked on the dark doorway straight ahead of him.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يابا بسم الله يا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا بسم الله بسم الله بسم الله بسم الله
The sheer amount of physical force required to throw that bed to the floor like that is staggering, and you can clearly see what did it too. But the absolute scariest part of this video isn't the initial scare, it's the aftermath. When he finally gathers the courage to walk into that room to see what just threw the bed, it is completely, impossibly empty. There are no footsteps running away, no one hiding in the corner, just a wrecked room. In a lot of Middle Eastern and Islamic paranormal lore, abandoned spaces like this are heavily associated with the jinn. Unlike traditional ghosts, which are the spirits of deceased humans, jinn are considered an entirely different species of entities that live alongside us, often claiming empty, ruined houses as their own territory. When a human walks into their domain, they don't just give you a spooky, subtle haunting. They aggressively defend their ground to scare you out. Moving that fast, displaying that much physical power, and vanishing without a trace is a classic hallmark of a jinn telling you to get out of its house immediately. In this next clip, we dive into one of the most unsettling phenomena in the paranormal world: children seeing things that adults completely miss. People don't just randomly film their family sleeping for no reason. This kind of terrifying incident had actually been happening for a while, which is exactly why the father finally decided to set up a night vision camera in their room to capture it. They are all fast asleep until the little girl suddenly wakes up in an absolute panic. Skeptics will immediately try to brush this off as just a standard childhood nightmare, but her body language completely disproves that. When a kid wakes up from a bad dream, they usually just cry and bury their face in their parents' chests for comfort, because the scary thing was inside their head. But she doesn't do that. Her eyes are locked on a very specific physical spot in the room. She is actively tracking something. Watch what happens to her level of terror when her dad actually tries to walk into the dark to check it out. In the paranormal community, it is a widely accepted theory that young children possess a much broader sensory frequency than adults. Because their minds haven't been conditioned to logically filter out the impossible yet, they are highly sensitive to spiritual entities and energy shifts that we are completely blind to. The most chilling part of this footage is her reaction when her father steps toward the area she's staring at. She starts screaming purely because she doesn't want him going over there. She isn't remembering a scary dream. She is actively watching something standing in the dark, and she is genuinely terrified for her dad's safety. When a child reacts with that much intense protective panic to an empty space, you don't go investigate the dark. You just turn on every light in the house and maybe call for an exorcism. In the next clip, we are taking a look at a place that most people actively try to avoid, especially after dark: the basement of a funeral home. According to the caption, a worker was just heading down into the storage and receiving area for the bodies. This is the exact room where the recently deceased are first brought in off the street. Naturally, it's supposed to be the quietest, most completely still room in the entire building. But as he walks into the dark, the dead silence is violently interrupted. Keep your eyes on the heavy metal equipment standing right in the middle of the room.
Estamos aquí en la funeraria, otra vez, con ruidos raros. Entonces, pues, está solo. Ahora sí, ¿cuál pinche que se ve? Que nada. Estoy solo. Estoy solo a la chingada. Estoy solo. A la chingada. A la chingada. A la... No mames. A la chingada.
It takes a very deliberate, aggressive amount of physical force to knock heavy funeral stands straight to the floor like that. That isn't a draft from an AC vent, and it isn't a clumsy bump. That is a targeted, violent push. When you dive into paranormal theory, funeral homes are basically considered massive spiritual transit stations. They are the ultimate liminal space between the physical world and whatever comes next. Because of that, investigators believe these buildings are constantly flooded with the confused, restless energy of spirits who might not even realize they have passed away yet. However, a sudden, violent display of kinetic energy usually points to something much heavier than just a confused ghost. Throwing heavy objects is often a sign of immense frustration from a trapped spirit. Even worse, it could be a darker, parasitic entity that actively feeds on the intense residual grief and heavy atmosphere of the morgue, lashing out at the lone worker just to prove that it is the one truly in charge of the basement. This next clip shows one of the most violent and chaotic examples of a spiritual home invasion you will ever come across. But to understand how scary this was for the poster, we need to go back a few days. The guy who lives here experienced something on a day when he was actually miles away, out performing a show. In the middle of his set, he suddenly became violently ill. He felt shaky, weak, and described it as if his energy was being completely drained right out of his body. Trusting his gut that something was horribly wrong, he pulled out his phone to check his home security cameras. What he saw unfolding in his empty kitchen is absolute nightmare fuel. The cross on his wall was turned upside down. There was a scary sound coming from his kitchen, and chairs were being thrown around. Because of this, he decided to put more cameras around his house, and one day while he was sleeping, this happened. Pay close attention to the bedroom door and keep your eyes locked on the vintage items sitting on top of his dresser. Seeing a bedroom door slowly creak open on its own is creepy enough, but the movement on that dresser takes this to a whole new level of disturbing. That doll doesn't just fall over from a vibration, it is being actively dragged back and forth, left and right, exactly like unseen hands are physically playing with it. In paranormal research, vintage dolls are notorious for acting as spiritual sponges or trigger objects. Because they are designed in the likeness of humans, dark entities often use them as vessels or focal points to manipulate physical energy. What you are seeing here is a classic psychological intimidation tactic. The entity opened the bedroom door to physically demonstrate that it has free reign of his house, and it started toying with the doll to mock a childlike innocence while he is completely unconscious and defenseless. It is a terrifying physical reminder that when you are dealing with an attachment of this level, you are never truly alone, especially when you close your eyes. When people asked why he hasn't moved out yet, he revealed that he did just move into this place, and whatever this is, didn't come with the house, it is attached to him. It followed him from his previous place. What would you do if you were in his shoes? In the next clip, we look at why pulling an all-nighter at the office can sometimes be a terrifying idea. Corporate buildings are designed for daytime hustle, but when everyone goes home, the lights dim and the space empties out, the atmosphere completely changes. The guy in this security footage is working late and decides to catch a quick nap at his desk. But it becomes very clear, very quickly, that he isn't the only one clocking in for the graveyard shift. It starts with a few classic, unsettling disruptions designed to wake him up and get his attention. But watch how aggressively the energy shifts when he finally gets up to investigate. You can literally see his panic escalate in real time. It starts with the phantom phone call, a classic terrifying poltergeist tactic. In paranormal research, entities manipulating electronics like phones or radios is often seen as an attempt to bridge the frequency gap, or simply a deliberate way to demand your undivided attention. When he picks up and hears dead air, the entity immediately pivots to physical manipulation. Moving a heavy office chair on its wheels takes effort, but aggressively throwing that black chair completely to the floor is a massive display of kinetic power. In the paranormal field, office hauntings are actually highly documented. You see workspaces are constantly filled with high stress, anxiety, and intense, heavy emotions. Many investigators believe that dense, negative energy can pool in these areas over time, creating the perfect feeding ground for poltergeists or parasitic entities. Whatever was in that room was actively feeding off his rising fear, escalating its physical attacks step by step until he finally broke. Bolting out of that office as fast as humanly possible was absolutely the only correct move. This next clip was posted by a dad who was just standing in his kitchen, completely focused on feeding his baby. His back is turned to the rest of the room, leaving him completely blind to what is slowly unfolding right behind him. He actually had no idea the full extent of what happened until he went back and pulled this security footage later. Keep your eyes on the paper towel roll sitting by the sink and watch the upper cabinets.
Oh, fucking hell, what was that? What was that? I know. What was... That shit me up. Sorry, I'm falling over. I know.
Seeing an object physically lift off the counter and levitate before dropping is one of the most undeniable displays of poltergeist activity you can capture. It didn't just tip over from a passing breeze, it was actively picked up and dropped. In paranormal research, entities that pull these kinds of stunts are usually classified as attention-seeking. But what makes this specific encounter so chilling is the intelligence behind the timing. It deliberately manipulated the paper towels to create a noise, forcing him to turn around and look. His raw, startled reaction is the exact spike in emotional energy the entity was looking for. Once it had his attention and his adrenaline was peaking, it immediately popped open the upper cabinet to establish its presence in the room. Poltergeist activity is famously drawn to households with high ambient energy, and sometimes the bustling, chaotic energy of raising a child can inadvertently act as a battery for these entities. It didn't want to hurt them. It just wanted to make it very clear that it was standing right there in the kitchen with them. The following clip you're about to watch was captured by a family who believe that their house is haunted. And honestly, after seeing this, it's hard to blame them. After weeks of things going bump in the night, they decided to set up an infrared camera to see what was happening in the living room while they were out. They probably expected a door to drift or a shadow to pass by, but what they got instead was a full-on auditory assault. right in the middle of the quiet, empty house, there's this massive, booming bang that hits so hard it actually distorts the audio feed. It's not just a settling floorboard, it's a localized burst of energy. But the real hair on the back of your neck moment happens seconds later. As the echo fades, you can hear a clear, very human sounding shh. It's as if the entity is mocking the camera or telling the house to keep its mouth shut. Some eagle-eyed viewers even pointed out a faint sniffing sound right before the hush. To top it off, they later caught the sound of whistling and saw clothes on a rack moving by themselves. This isn't just a residual haunting, it's an entity that's fully aware it's being watched and seems to be getting a kick out of performing for the lens. The activity didn't remain a silent observer for long. It soon began to respond directly to the family's attempts at communication. In this next sequence, the mother and her children decide to test if the presence in their hallway is capable of following instructions, treating the encounter not with fear, but with a surprising level of curiosity.
Close the door. Can you close the door, please? What the fuck?
Come on, let me ask. Open the door if you need help.
What the? You do? Oh my, it opened it wide as shit. Oh my god.
Close the door if you need help.
I swear to God, I put it on.
Oh my, what is it doing? What the, bro, no. This I knew. Yes, I knew. Elgin, please.
Do you see
Elgin,
it?
can you please? It's closed all the way, bro. It's closed all the way.
Open it all the way. You need help.
This place haunted.
Oh my god.
Close the door if you need help. Close the door.
I'm getting scared. I'm getting scared. Oh my god. I'm gonna cry, bro.
Standing in the living room, they ask the entity to open the door if it needs help. Almost instantly, the heavy door at the end of the hall swings wide with a slow, purposeful motion. The interaction becomes even more startling when they ask it to close the door. The door doesn't just drift shut, it is pushed with enough force to fully engage the latch. You can clearly hear the mechanical click as the door locks back into place, a feat that would be impossible for a simple draft or a shifting foundation to accomplish. This level of precision indicates an intelligent entity with the ability to manipulate hardware and respond to verbal cues in real time. The family is left standing in a house where the doors act as a medium for dialogue, confirming that the shh from the previous night was just the beginning of a much more interactive haunting. It seems the entity isn't just living in the house, it's listening to every word they say. As the activity within the house intensified, the family began to suspect that the disturbances were not limited to the interior walls. Driven by the sound of inexplicable noises echoing from the darkness of their property, the father decided to extend his surveillance to the backyard, hoping to identify a natural cause for the unrest. What he discovered was a new, bizarre layer of the anomaly, one that seemed to possess a more organic, yet entirely unnatural form. Listen carefully and watch out for the orbs. In the grainy night vision footage, what appears to be a large, bird-like creature is seen momentarily before the atmosphere is flooded with strange orbs of light. These aren't the typical dust motes or insects often dismissed in paranormal videos. These orbs possess a self-luminous quality and a level of intentionality in their movement that causes the camera's digital tracking system to visibly struggle. It frantically pans and zooms, unable to lock onto the rapidly shifting light sources that appear to be playing a game of hide and seek with the lens. The father noted that these visual anomalies are consistently accompanied by unusual, sharp sounds that seem to originate from the air itself. This expansion of the haunting suggests that whatever is interacting with the family isn't just claiming a room, it's claiming their entire environment. The presence is no longer just the thing in the hallway, it has become a pervasive shadow that covers every square inch of their lives, waiting for the cover of night to manifest its most bizarre and evasive forms. Throughout the documentation of these events, viewers consistently offered the same piece of advice: move. For most, the logical solution to a haunted house is to simply leave it behind and start fresh. Taking this suggestion to heart, the family uprooted their lives and settled into a completely different residence, hoping to find the peace that had been stolen from them in their previous home. However, in this next sequence, the true, terrifying nature of their situation is finally revealed. At exactly 3:00 a.m., in the absolute silence of their brand new home, the familiar sounds of the unknown returned with a vengeance. Despite using software to strip away the white noise, the audio remains sharp, with the sounds of deliberate knocking and heavy objects falling from shelves in the distance. The father, audibly exhausted, addresses his audience with a chilling realization that changes everything. He confirms that this is his new house, yet the activity remains unchanged. This is the definitive moment the narrative shifts from a haunted house to a haunted family. In paranormal terminology, this is a person-centered haunting, where the entity is anchored not to a physical structure or historical site, but to the individuals themselves. Moving 1,000 miles away wouldn't make a difference. The shh and the shadows are traveling with them in the moving truck, making it clear that there is no geographic escape from what has chosen them. In the final and most conclusive piece of evidence, the father decides to confront the presence in their new kitchen, seeking a direct answer to the question that has been haunting them more than the entity itself. Sitting in the middle of a room that should be a sanctuary, he begins a verbal dialogue, asking the entity to manifest a sound on command.
Hello? Can you make a noise? Can you make a loud noise? Is this your old house? Have you been following us? I can hear you. Are you in the kitchen? Can you knock 2 times? only hear one knock. Can you consistently knock 2 times? What is your name?
The response is immediate and chillingly intelligent. Perhaps the most disturbing moment comes when he asks the entity directly if it followed them from their old house. The ensuing series of knocks feels like a sentient confirmation, a dark admission that the change of address was entirely in vain. This interaction removes any lingering hope that the family was simply dealing with a bad house. It confirms a person-centered attachment, a phenomenon where an entity is emotionally or energetically tethered to a specific individual or group. The family is now faced with the sobering reality that they aren't just living in a haunted environment, they are carrying the haunting with them. The doors may be new and the walls freshly painted, but the guest in their kitchen is the same shadow that drove them away from their last home. They have discovered that you can leave a building, but you cannot leave behind a presence that has decided you are its anchor. So what do you think? Is there any way to break a bond that transcends physical boundaries? Or are some attachments simply permanent? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. The next clip was captured in a home where the owner lives completely alone, but based on this footage, it looks like he might have a roommate he didn't account for. The man's son-in-law shared this video after checking the security feed from a day when the house was supposed to be entirely empty. What starts as a quiet afternoon quickly turns into a display of physical aggression that's pretty hard to debunk. Right off the bat, you hear this heavy, shuffling sound, almost like someone is dragging a piece of furniture across the floor. Then, without warning, the double closet doors slam shut with enough force to make you jump. Now, here is where it gets scientifically weird. The family points out 2 major red flags. First, those doors don't have handles on the inside, and the closet is so packed with a washer and dryer that there is physically no room for a person to be standing in there to pull them shut. But the real nope moment happens right after the slam. You can see a light flickering from the gap in the doors. According to the owner, that light hasn't worked in years and isn't even plugged into a power source anymore. We see a lot of ghost videos, but when you combine a physical slam with a dead light bulb coming back to life, you're moving out of the realm of drafty houses and into something much more intentional. It's as if the entity wanted to make sure its presence was felt, heard, and seen all at once. Is this a classic case of an entity using a dead electronic as a battery to manifest? Or is the house itself just holding onto some aggressive energy? This next clip takes us to a hotel in the Lake District, where a solo traveler captured something that turned a peaceful getaway into a night of pure paranoia. While filming a TikTok in her room, she started noticing strange noises that didn't belong. If you listen closely, you can hear these distinct, disembodied whispers. One viewer even pointed out that it sounds like a voice saying she's already nervous, which, if true, is a whole new level of creepy. It wasn't just her imagination though. When she reviewed the footage, the voices were undeniably there, vibrating in the silence of her empty room.
Hello? Oh, fucking hell.
Hello? Hello?
Now, here's where it gets interesting. Once the video hit the internet, the comments section turned into an unofficial paranormal forum. Several people immediately recognized the layout and asked if she was staying at The Swan, a well-known hotel in the area. One user reported it was the most haunted night ever, and they didn't sleep a wink during their stay. While another guest confirmed they had an almost identical experience in a loft room at that same location. Feeling increasingly uneasy, she called down to reception, and they promised to send someone up to check on her. When she finally opens the door, expecting to see a staff member, she's met with a long, silent, and completely empty hallway. The sheer length of that corridor makes it almost impossible for someone to have ducked around a corner that fast. While a few skeptics in the comments suggested noisy heating pipes, the majority of viewers were just screaming for her to lock the door and stay inside. So, what do you think? Is this hotel truly holding on to spirits from the past that like to comment on their guest's state of mind? Or is it just a case of old plumbing and a hyper-aware traveler? This video you're about to watch comes from the home surveillance footage of a co-worker's house. According to the person who shared this, the homeowner has been dealing with a heavy, oppressive presence in this specific area of their house, claiming that they repeatedly see this exact same shadowy figure lurking around late at night. Finally, their security camera triggered and captured what they've been dreading. In paranormal analysis, whenever a hazy, indistinct shape drifts across the screen like that, skeptics immediately jump to a few standard conclusions. They'll argue it's just an out-of-focus bug walking across the camera lens, or perhaps the headlights of a passing car refracting through the glass. But we can definitively rule the car lights out. The co-worker who lives in the house confirmed that at the exact moment this anomaly was recorded, there were absolutely no cars driving by outside and no external lights shining onto the property. If there is no external light source, there can be no reflection, which means this shadow light anomaly wasn't caused by the environment. It was an intelligence generating its own luminous energy to manifest in our reality. What the camera caught wasn't a trick of lighting or a wandering insect. It was the physical visual discharge of the exact recurring entity the homeowner knows is waiting for them in the dark. What do you think about this? This next clip shows an anomaly that has baffled a homeowner for the last 4 years. One night, a strange, erratic light source triggered her camera's motion sensors, so she uploaded the video and it sparked a massive debate. The movement is so distinctly autonomous and fluttery that the creator's friend and dozens of people in the comments are entirely convinced the camera captured a fairy. Naturally, skeptics were quick to jump in with two main scientific explanations. Either it's simply a trick of the light reflecting off the kitchen counter, or it's the camera's infrared lights refracting off a tiny spider web hanging just in front of the lens. Keep those theories in mind as you watch the footage. If you watch the trajectory closely, both of those logical explanations completely fall apart. First, if this were merely a reflection, like a passing car's headlights sliding across the kitchen counter, the light would physically bend, distort, or break the moment it crossed the edge of the countertop. But it doesn't. The light maintains its shape and trajectory perfectly. It doesn't bend with the counter because it isn't on the counter. It is a free-floating, three-dimensional energy source moving through the air directly in front of it. The spiderweb theory is much more plausible. In fact, it's exactly what the homeowner thought when her Ring notifications first started going off like crazy. To solve the problem, she physically went out into the room and scrubbed that entire corner, checking for and clearing out any spider webs within a 5-foot radius. But here is the detail that turns this from a mild curiosity into a terrifying encounter. The footage we just watched was recorded after she cleaned the area. Whatever this anomaly was, it wasn't a web and it wasn't leaving. The persistent, unexplained presence of this energy finally pushed the homeowner to her breaking point. She was so spooked that she grabbed her dog at 3 a.m., abandoned the house, and drove 40 minutes to sleep on her parents' couch. When she finally returned the next day, the anomaly was completely gone and she never saw it again. What do you think that was? I'll let you be the judge. This next clip takes us into an environment universally recognized as a massive focal point for the unexplained, a cemetery. In paranormal research, graveyards are considered active batteries of residual energy that hold a dense concentration of spiritual activity simply due to the emotional weight and history attached to the ground. The footage comes from a creator who makes a regular habit of live streaming his late-night graveyard visits. As he stands in the dark, his face covered by a black balaclava while he interacts with his chat, pay close attention to the background just over his right shoulder.
Graben. Pinche velador está loco. Ese Hidalgo. Dylan Adrián, ese Hidalgo, no.
Right in the middle of his broadcast, the distinct silhouette of what appears to be a full-bodied figure casually walks through the shadows directly behind the tombstones. When someone repeatedly uses a final resting place for entertainment, they inevitably run the risk of disturbing whatever is anchored there. Spirits, much like the living, can eventually reach a breaking point when their peace is constantly interrupted. This manifestation doesn't feel like a random, wandering soul just caught on camera by accident. Given how often he streams there, it feels much more like a subtle, calculated warning. It's a quiet, but deeply unsettling way for the residents of that graveyard to let him know that they are watching, they just want to rest, and they have finally had enough of his cameras. If an entity is willing to step out of the shadows and walk directly behind you while you're live streaming, it might be time to find a new location to film. In this next clip, we explore a concept that's so scary, it sounds straight out of a nightmare. What if you aren't just living with a spirit, but living inside a monster house that is actively hunting you? You see, for weeks, the guy in this video had been dealing with deeply unsettling auditory phenomena, most notably hearing distinct, disembodied laughter in his house when he knew for a fact he was completely home alone. But tonight, the entity decided to stop laughing from the shadows and start physically interacting with the environment. He hears the heavy, rhythmic thud of his kitchen cabinets opening and slamming shut on their own. So, armed with his camera, he goes in to investigate. But what makes this footage so sinister is the undeniable intelligence behind the activity. The entity plays a predatory game of cat and mouse. The moment he steps into the kitchen, the noise dead stops. But the second he turns his camera away, it immediately starts again. Watch what happens when the entity finally decides to drop the act and show itself.
Something opens my cabinet and laughs.
No one's in my cabinet that I'm aware of. Oh my god. Fuck that. I swear one of these cupboards just went. It wasn't the same noise. It usually happens, but one of these. Maybe that. No, that won't go because it's got stuff in front of it. This is bullshit. I swear to God that cupboard is moving. Oh my god. Oh shit. Right, that's it. I'm going. Oh my god.
The sheer, unfiltered panic in his voice as he yells is the sound of a man realizing he is no longer at the top of the food chain in his own home. But the most chilling detail happens just as he turns to flee. The cabinet doesn't just slam shut, it violently swings completely wide open. In paranormal psychology, an entity that plays red light, green light with a victim isn't just haunting a space, it's actively trying to break the occupant down psychologically to establish dominance. When that cabinet swings wide open, right as he turns his back to run, it is the entity claiming its territory. This leaves us with one final, scary question. If your own home suddenly turned into a hunting ground and things around the house start playing games with you, what would you do? This next clip was posted by a mum who's convinced that her toddler has just seen a ghost. It is a long-standing theory in the paranormal community that young children possess a heightened awareness, allowing them to see things that adults simply brush past. What starts as a normal, happy moment between a mother and her toddler hanging out on the bed quickly shifts when the child's attention is completely derailed by something invisible in the room. The mother noted in her caption that while her daughter didn't cry before or after the specific footage, and that there have been other times in this house where she was absolutely petrified by whatever she was staring at. Watch her expression change and listen to what she points at.
Nipple. Why are you scared? Please. Oh. What's wrong?
Don't know Dada.
Where's Dada? Oh.
Dada, okay, oh, what are those? Huh? Others.
I don't know, what is it?
There was it.
There's nothing out there.
No, we are there.
What?
No, we are there.
Where?
We are there. Don't know it goes.
A ghost? Did you say it's a ghost?
No, it goes.
Where's a ghost?
No, it goes.
Oh.
It's definitely chilling to watch a child go from laughing to being completely hyperfixated on an empty space. But the most striking part is her vocabulary. She explicitly points into the void and identifies the presence as a ghost. Toddlers don't really have the psychological capacity to fake a complex visual tracking response just for fun. She is actively watching something move across the room. The mum handles it like most parents probably would, assuming it's just her child's active imagination. But from an investigator's perspective, verbally acknowledging and inviting an unverified entity closer is always a risky move, even as a joke. It gives whatever is standing in that room validation. It leaves you wondering, when a child points to an empty corner and tells you someone is there, at what point do you stop laughing and start believing them? This next clip perfectly captures the terrifying progression of a physical haunting. When an entity first starts interacting with our world, it often tests the waters with smaller, easily dismissed movements before escalating to heavier objects. In the first half of the video, we are looking at a seemingly normal bedroom setup. Keep your eyes on the bag resting quietly on top of the bed.
Picture lang. Makita tayo.
There is no visible string, no sudden tilt of the mattress, and no logical reason for a stationary bag to suddenly drag itself over the edge. The movement is a clear, downward pull. But whatever is in this house wasn't satisfied with just knocking luggage onto the floor. In the second part of the footage, the kinetic energy shifts, focusing on a seating arrangement. Watch closely because the extreme specificity of what happens next is what makes it so unnerving.
Tingnan nyo guys ha. Nandiyan na siya. Nandiyan na. Nandiyan na siya. Nandiyan na. Nandiyan na. Gumalaw yung bangko.
Notice how the surrounding environment remains completely undisturbed. The table doesn't bump. The stool, right next to it, doesn't wobble. And there is no shifting of the floor. Just a single chair being smoothly and deliberately dragged backward by an unseen hand. When paranormal activity is this targeted, it completely rules out environmental factors like heavy vibrations, earthquakes, or drafts. It proves that the entity has enough focus and density to grip a single, specific piece of furniture and move it with purpose. It isn't just lashing out blindly. It knows exactly what it wants to move, and it wants to make sure the homeowner is watching when it happens. This next footage gives us a rare, real-time look at an investigator actively negotiating with a poltergeist, and it perfectly illustrates how unpredictable and intelligent these entities can be. The video starts right after a violent physical disturbance. That heavy metal stand with the draping beads on the middle shelf had just swung forward on its own, violently striking the glass door of the display cabinet. The investigator immediately opens the right side door, hits record, and begins a direct communication session, challenging whatever is in the room to do it again. At first, the response is weak. We just see a slight, subtle jingling of the draped beads. It's the exact kind of movement a skeptic would immediately debunk as a heavy footstep, or the investigator subtly bumping the wooden cabinet. But the investigator knows this, so he doesn't back down. He verbally pushes the entity, asking it to actually swing the object like it did before. What the entity does in response leaves him completely unnerved and physically lightheaded.
Poltergeist.
So I'm sitting here gaming, and that object up there swung and literally smacked the glass really hard. Damn reflection, but look, still moving. Let's get you before it stops. Look, still moving. Oh no, it moved. Look, it was sitting there, as you can see from the dust. Oh, so it moved. Alright. Can you make it swing again? Damn, I really need to wipe off in there. Look at all that shit. Can you make it swing again? Try to open that more. Hello? Can you make it move again? Oh, look. It made them all move now.
Nice. Can you make a swing like you did before when it hit the glass? It's going out of focus. Alright, now I said swing it, not move it. Jeez Louise. Jeez Louise. And I opened that thing, so probably let the damn thing out. Yo, this thing keeps moving. I'm like nervous and shaking. And I'm lightheaded a little bit. Keeps going out of focus. Surprised them things ain't shaking more how much it moved. I'm so nervous, man. So lightheaded. I don't regret this, but can you make it move again? Can you make it move again? So lightheaded. Can you slide it the other way? Keeps going out of focus. Yo! Was that a nickel, a dime, a penny? Look, there's my change. That thing went flying. How did it not hit the glass? See, that's some glitch in the Matrix shit. Yo, I gotta rewatch that, cause how'd it get past that glass and fly behind this stuff? That's definitely not what flew out. I don't even know where